Hello, everybody. It's Romania Black, and we're on season 6 of My Hero Academia. Man, it seems like it's been a long time since season 5, like a really long time. Just for those of you who have not watched my other My Hero Academia reactions, I reacted to season 5 last year. It's one of the earlier shows that I did for this channel, so it's the thumbnails look pretty terrible. I'll be honest. I'm going to try to improve on that this season, but I was a wee YouTube beginner as I did season 5, but I have honestly followed My Hero Academia from start to finish. I started watching, my brother got me into the show, like long before I started this channel, we started watching, and then around end of season 4 is when I started my channel, and so I decided that when season 5 came out, I would react to it. So I've done like a soapbox thing where I've talked about all of seasons 1 through 4, and talked about them in detail, my thoughts on them, and then I did season 5 over a year ago. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, season 6. I'll be honest with y'all, my favorite parts of the manga are in this season, I hope. Because all the stuff that's happening in the manga with what's going to happen in this season, without spoiling you all, is some of my favorite stuff. So I honestly have really high hopes. Now, high expectations. I know everybody kind of dogged season 5 last season, not only because of the animation issues, but because of just like the pacing and some of the plot stuff, which I'll be honest, season 5 is a very odd season. In the manga, it's at a weird place, right? Because I feel like it's very reminiscent of Game of Thrones. Season 5 of Game of Thrones is like a setup season. It sets things up for the season to come, and then they all kind of play out, whether you liked them or not. I liked them. So this, My Hero Academia, is kind of in the same boat, where things are set up in season 5, and now we're going to see the payoff of those things in this season. So there's a lot of things I'm looking forward to. Since they don't have a movie to work on, I'm gonna hope that they're focusing more on the animation as well, because I know that was a concern. And just, I am excited for My Hero Academia. I keep up with the manga. It's in some crazy places. But last time I did this reaction, I went back and looked at the manga afterwards. I think I'm going to hold off on this episode and maybe not do that. I'm maybe going to read the manga and go back and check on things leading up to the next episode, because I want to definitely talk and have a spoiler corner if things come up and talk about those briefly, but I think I might reserve, because that's the thing, as it's been a while since I've read this part of the manga, and I have intentionally not reread it because I want to be surprised by what happens. So I think I may hold off on reading the manga after each episode and let things wash over naturally, and then talk about the spoilers I do remember and things I do remember in like a spoiler corner and get brought up. That way I don't feel disappointed, because one thing with season 5 is I did get a little frustrated that things weren't lining up with the manga like they were in the anime, and they made some pacing choices that were different. And so I'm not going to do that with this season until maybe I need to. So we'll just see where it goes. But I'm really excited. I had to wear my Y'all Might shirt today, and it's cold, so of course I had to put a jacket on over it. But I'm really excited. I am looking forward to what this season is going to bring, because like I said, there are some moments that I hope are going to get animated in this season that are some of my favorites. I'm going to fangirl about them, and you all will get to see me fangirl about them, and I'm really excited for you all to see it for the first time if you're anime only. This is like the one series I react to that I am not an anime only, and I feel like I get to fangirl and sit back and enjoy, so that's fun. And I want to see some of these moments animated. I'm really excited, so we'll see, right? We'll see. So, and we get a new OP and ED, which is always fun. So, we're going to dive in to season 6 of My Hero Academia, episode 1. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. That was a great place to stop. It's going to be so hard. It's going to be so hard in the discussions talking about this series without getting into spoilers. So I'm definitely doing a spoiler corner. I'm not going back through the manga, because what I liked about this episode is I forgot quite a bit. I forgot a lot of what happened in the manga until it actually happened in the episode. And then I was like, oh yeah! So that's actually really exciting, because I've been keeping up with the manga, but I have intentionally not gone back and reread anything, because honestly, where this series is going right now is from the manga over a year ago. It's been so long since I've read these chapters. And so a lot of the content of it I've forgotten. And so I kind of like that because that means that when I get to go back through and watch these episodes this season, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's right. And it'll be kind of fresh, which is exciting as a content creator for reactions because I always worry about the series because it's the one that I know what's happening. And so it's always kind of weird because if you're doing a reaction, you're like, well, is it going to be that genuine? Because I kind of know what's going to happen, but I still forget some of the things that's going on. I was like, oh yeah. And then seeing some of this animated is like the ending with Mirko just smashing the door on Johnny. I was like, oh, that's right. And it looks so freaking good. Horikoshi is a hard row to hoe, right? A hard row to hoe because Horikoshi, this series, it balances this weird line. Horikoshi's friends with Gege Akutami, who does Jujutsu Kaisen, and is friends with some other mangaka. So you have like your Fujimoto and Akutami, who do Chainsaw Man and Jujutsu Kaisen. And I've not seen Chainsaw Man yet as I'm recording this. I'm planning to watch it. But from what my brothers told me, my brother's like, oh yeah, Chainsaw Man's like, it's kind of like Jujutsu Kaisen, just gorier. I was like, and he said he didn't want to tell me anymore because he didn't want to spoil me. But with Gege and Fujimoto, those series are naturally a lot darker than My Hero Academia. My Hero Academia is rooted, as our OP shows, very much in comic book tradition. Horikoshi draws so much from Western comic books and from the superhero motifs and everything like that. So there is inherently, even when you have like Batman, which is a very dark comic series, this is more like Superman. Superman's always been like a much more, even though a lot of modern iterations of Superman have the darkness to them, in the comic book series, Superman's always been like a dun-dun-dun, like bright and happy chipper thing. And My Hero Academia kind of started out along the same lines. It started out as this like hero's journey for Deku, and it's very upbeat and like colorful and positive. And then as we've gone through the seasons, it's progressively like integrated that dark reality of the world outside of UA and the world outside of what Deku imagined hero society was. And we get to see the underground and the shades of gray and things getting much more complicated and layered. But at its heart, My Hero Academia is still like a hero story. It's still very much rooted in like this comic book tradition. And so the good versus evil sort of things. And I feel like Horikoshi sometimes gets boxed in by those standards. I feel like sometimes Horikoshi, he's made this series where he's kind of boxed in. It's kind of like Disney. Walt Disney always said that he wanted to do like stuff like To Kill a Mockingbird because it was a darker, more layered and complex story, but he'd kind of box himself in the brand of Disney being like for families. And I'm not saying that My Hero Academia is like that, but I feel like Horikoshi has created this standard and this tone that you've got to tread a very careful line of when you transition that tone. So I feel like last season kind of started that, and then this season is continuing it. That we're starting to get in a little more layered, deep, dark things, but we're doing so kind of gradually because you don't want to whiplash your audience. You don't want to have them be like, oh, everything's fun, look at these UA kids, and then be like death and destruction, right? So we'll talk in the spoiler corner about things, but this episode was a really good like integration back into the series. I'm really curious. We've got 24 episodes, like how much ground we're going to cover. It feels like we cover a lot of ground in this very first episode, but in the manga, to be fair, and this is not spoiling anything, the same amount of ground is covered in the manga. So it's like, it all happens so fast that you're like, what's going on? But things aren't going to be easy. The Nomu are not going to be something that we can just shake a fist at, although Mirko's doing a pretty damn good job. So I joked about it at the beginning of the reaction. I was like, why do we have this recap? I feel like you're 6 seasons in. If you're just now joining in the 6th season, what kind of monster are you? What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Go back to the beginning and watch from the start. You don't start a series 6 seasons in. No. But again, it's been over a year since people have seen the show. So if you're anime only and you've not read the manga, then you're like, okay, refresh my memory. What was going on? Liberation Front, Endeavor, Hawks, what's happening? And so I like that we get a little refresher course there, right? And then, of course, like prefacing the darkness before the dawn. and Shigaraki. I will always I love the color combo of Shigaraki with the red and Deku with the green. I love the green and red color combo. The contrast, it's very good. Shigaraki just looks good with the red. It matches his eyes. I love Shigaraki now that his hair's gone all white. It's great. But then, yeah, him saying that I do love Shigaraki holding the hand and saying you've become the embodiment of destruction. And Shigaraki saying he won't underestimate heroes. And he'll use his power to turn what All Might left behind to dust. Which is so like you're the grandson of the former hero of All Might's teacher. It's like, no, why are you doing these things? You know. And then I love the actual parallel of Shigaraki with his one arm all distorted and torn up like Deku's. It looks exactly like Deku's. In the manga, it looked like Deku's. In the anime, they have the same coloring, everything. It just looks like Deku's arm. It's like the parallels, right? The parallels of Shigaraki and Deku are just wonderful in this series. And they feel so very, very comic book-esque. Very, the archetypes against one another. It's wonderful. So this OP, we'll go back and talk about the OP later in the spoiler corner, but it's not what I expected, right? Because last season, as it ended and we started getting in more dire straits with Shigaraki, I expected a much darker OP, to be honest. But then again, My Hero Academia, again, is branded like a superhero story, like a comic book story. So I like the effects of the comic book, and then it transitions out. It feels very much kind of like Spy Family, if I'm being honest. Like, if you've watched Spy Family, the OP it's all kind of like from Anya's perspective for a while, and it's all like colorful like a drawing, and then it transitions to the adult world. And this OP kind of does the same. It starts out like a comic book format, and then it transitions to the rest of to the real world of the story. So I think that's rather interesting. But yeah, so just setting up old Hawks. I love Hawks' voice actor. He voice acts for Gojo, and he's Kuro. His voice actor is very typecast as someone that plays a protagonist that's kind of shady, and that's Hawks. Like, Hawks is kind of shady. He's a double agent, right? He needs to be. He has to be kind of questionable because his job is to be a double agent in all of this. And him being a double agent and working behind the scenes at the Liberation Front, I always forget the name of the long-haired guy, oh my gosh, that's doing all the intel with them. He controls the computers. I forget his name so often, and it'll get brought back up. But I love his character, though, because he's so snarky, right? But twice, and then Spinner and Compress on the council's great. I mean, to be fair, of all of the League of Villains, Spinner and Compress are like the most level-headed. So they're the least crazy and most dedicated to the cause. So that would make sense why they're on the council. But Twice, I forgot how much I love Twice. He is. It's so bizarre because, yeah, Twice is a criminal. He's a villain. He's killed people. And we as the audience are not supposed to like that about Twice. We're supposed to be like, no, Twice, you've killed people. That's not good. But I will say, for Twice's sake, to play villain's advocate, Twice does have a complex. But also, it's this weird dynamic that's being set up in this season with Hawks infiltrating. Because before, yeah, we saw the League of Villains before, but we didn't really get to see them under the surface. We just kind of saw them. We got their points of views occasionally, right? Occasionally we got their point of view and we got to see what they were thinking. And then from there, it kind of just, we didn't get to see fully what was going on under the surface with villains. But the more we get to know them, the more it's revealed that, yeah, they are people. They're people the same as anybody else, but they've made bad decisions. And some of those decisions have been brought on by their circumstances. And yeah, it doesn't justify Twice killing all these people. It doesn't, but it gives you more of an understanding of him, and that complicates things. And I feel that that's what Hawks is getting at here. He's like, you're such a good person, Twice. You're good-natured. And he's like, I'm using you to get information, but Hawks is like, I've got to, because now that you've overcome this trauma you've had that's limited you all this time, your double quirk is really, really dangerous. And because you're good-natured, you will go along with whatever cause you feel is justified and suiting you best. So the League of Villains is going to use you and the Liberation Front's going to use you to their cause and you're just going to go along with it. So Hawks is like, I've got to use you. Otherwise, we're all going to die. So it makes it very complicated because Hawks is recognizing that Twice is a good-natured person. He's just being used and doing things for bad reasons. And he's like, I hate it, but I gotta use you, man. It's like, the relationship between Hawks and Twice is getting developed, and it's like, it just cuts to the core of you, right? But yeah, we get to introduce to all the divisions. We have the Black Division, which is Twice. We have, and I want to go back and read like what each section was, right? They're based on their skills. So the Vanguard is the Tactics Regiment, which is why Twice feels so out of sync, because he's like, tactics? He's like, I'm being put in charge of this unit because I have the best quirk out of all of us, but he's like, tactic-wise, he's like, I don't know. So that's why he's asking Hawk for help. But yeah, the Tactics Regiment, Black. And then we go to Violet, the Guerrilla Warfare Regiment, which Dobby looks like he could care less. Dobby's just like, and they established Dobby and Toga just don't care. They're like, whatever. Or Dobby and Garin, who is the arms dealer, they could care less. And then Toga is just like, she's all, trying to get to Deku. But yeah, I love that Dobby is in charge of the Violet unit, the Guerrilla Warfare, which kind of makes sense. Dobby's kind of very, like, he just lashes out with his powers and doesn't really have any tactical thing in mind. He just wants to, it's brute strength. It's brute strength, right, that he's using his flames. And then from there we have Carmine. I like Carmine. It's yellow. It's a weird color of yellow, right? The Intelligence Regiment, which Toga being on the Intelligence Regiment, she's crazy. But yeah, she's also got a very manipulative quirk that could be used for espionage. That's why she's on the intelligent unit. She has an espionage related quirk in that she can pose as anybody else, right? And then of course we have, I forget his name, it's gonna drive me crazy. And then we have the Brown Regiment. Support! I like this brown. You couldn't say like beige or something, just brown. And it's Compress and Spinner. But the Support Regiment, that is a really good place for Compress. Compress and Spinner being on the Support Regiment makes a lot of sense because of their quirks and how they could be used for that. Makes sense. And we see all the other members of Liberation Front that are associated and tied to that. So yeah. But yeah, and then just Hawks having to play the part of the double agent and him telling Twice that it's so weird because Hawks is very convincing when he tells Twice. He's like, oh, the existing structure should be destroyed. And I know exactly what that feels like. I'm like a bird that's been caged. And the sad thing about it is you believe him. Like in this moment when he's telling Twice that, he's so convincing. And there's an aspect about Hawks where he talks about like he's known all this from an early age, like how to infiltrate. And it's like, there's a little bit of you that wonders like, does Hawks... is Hawks really totally on board with the heroes? Or is there a tiny sliver of him that kind of gets it? And it makes you really question Hawks and his motives through all this. It's like, he plays the part of the double agent very well. But at the end of the day, he is getting info and taking it to Endeavor and the others because he wants to stop the League of Villains and the Liberation Front from completely destroying Japan. And that moment where he has his hand out and he just like slowly curls it back, it's like, he's like, oh yeah, bye. And then he's like, yeah, no, I'm not really on your side. And it's like, that's the cue to the audience. Like, oh no, Hawks is playing Twice. And he's just very, very convincing, right? I do love it. So cute that he has like has a little chalkboard. He's like trying to be the teacher. Again, his voice actor is often typecast as like the shady mentor. So the fact that he's like a shady mentor towards Twice checks out. But yeah, Hawks recognizing that, yeah, they're going to use double. They're going to use Twice and his quirk because it's that potent and dangerous. Mm-hmm. So we go to the hospital. Now, without spoiling anything, I remember that when this chapter first came out, they had to rename the Doctor's character because for whatever reason, Horikoshi gave the Doctor's character a name that was actually tied to a historical figure that had caused genocide, and people were like, why? Now, why Horikoshi did that, I don't know. Maybe Horikoshi was like, too soon? I feel like it was a too soon moment for Horikoshi. He was like, really? We can't do this? But it is a weird line. I don't know. It's a very hard line to draw. Because on the one hand, yeah, if you're drawing from a figure from World War II, I mean, we parody Hitler a lot, but the idea of parody is that you take power away from something by making fun of it. That's the reason why it works, is because you're making a figure less, you're making a figure have less power by poking fun at it and making fun of it and mocking it, right? So it takes that power away and replaces it with the comedic aspect. So that's why you can get away with a lot of that stuff without it being too sensitive. But I figure with this character being, with Garaki's character originally being named after that other figure, one, there's not really a lot of fun poked at Garaki. He's the stereotypical doctor figure, but he's not parodied, right? He still is a threat. So that power isn't necessarily taken from that figure, from that name. So that kind of makes sense why people were a little bit like, why'd you do that? But then on the other hand, I kind of get Horikoshi being like, well, World War II was like, 80 years ago. But then I get it. It's like you can't, there's a very thin line there, and depending on where you're from, your family history, sensitivities, like I get why people were like, why did you do that? Like I would not have done that personally. I would have treaded the line a little bit harder than Horikoshi did, but it doesn't matter. It's all settled. It's all good. People are still reading. There was a time when I remember that it was a big controversy and people were like going to drop the series because of that, because of a name. And I'm like, Horikoshi changed it. It's okay. I feel like I'm an outsider in that discussion because I don't have a connection personally to that name and what it represents. So I'm not a very good person to comment on it, I admit. So, but I remember when it happened and I was like, interesting. But yeah, so the doctor, getting all the information about him, the fact that he set up these orphanages to take these kids and take their quirks to put in All for One in the Nomu is it is despicable. And I think that's where it ties into the whole idea that you're not parroting the doctor. The doctor is a threatening character. He's a Dr. Robotnik archetype, but he's a very threatening character that you're like, no, he has done some serious damage and hurt a lot of things. So, but yeah, and then we gather all the heroes together. The idea that Edgeshot is leading the infiltration unit with the infiltration unit to the hospital and everything makes a lot of sense. And then Endeavor is like leading the charge. But Endeavor and them end up going to the hospital in the mountains. So it's interesting. They're like doing Edgeshot's doing an evacuation unit and then going towards the Liberation Front and infiltrating there. Makes sense. Endeavor's like invading the hospital where Shigaraki's at. Like, no, we got to force ourselves in and annihilate this place. Obviously, I kind of mixed it up in the reaction, but it makes sense that your heaviest hitters, the Nomu, would be with Shigaraki to protect him. So you'd want to take Endeavor there to like try to get in and get Shigaraki because that's your main threat. Whereas the Liberation Front, you want to try to sneak in and capture them all. So Edgeshot would be a good choice for that as well. Makes a lot of sense, right? And then it's great seeing all the heroes again, seeing the cats, seeing old Locke and everything. And then let me see you get on here. Seeing them. And then Johnny! I love the one girl's like, oh my god, a tiny Nomu! I do love Johnny's design. R.I.P. Johnny. I love Johnny's design, that little tiny Nomu. It's so creepy, but with the little sneakers and the tennis shoes, it's like even when Horikoshi makes something that's creepy, it's got a cutesy factor to it. It's kind of hard to avoid, right? It's something that I think Horikoshi can excel in the fact that even things that are slightly disturbing, there's kind of a cute factor to them that you're like, aw. But Tamaki, Sun Eater, fat gun with his hand on Tamaki's head. And they got everybody at the different locations. And so it makes sense why you have the two kids from Class B, Shroom, and and her friend that I always like put together as shipping them together. It makes sense that they are on the front lines because their quirks are very wide range, long base attacks. That makes sense. It's like we want to utilize the quirks of the students, but at the same time, we don't want to put them directly in harm's way. So if you can use your quirks from a distance, you're going to be in a safer place, but it's going to help us heroes out a lot more. And I like that Midnight kind of like, she gets down on Shroom's level and like holds her hand. She's like, it's going to be okay. We're going to need you guys to help us this one moment. And then you guys fall back, right? We're not going to put you in harm's way if we don't have to. Like, look at Midnight. But then, yeah, Kaminari's like, why am I here? Kaminari's like, I don't want to be in the middle of this. And Tokiyami's just like Dark Shadow ready to go, right? He's like already made his offering to the darkness. So then we cut back to everybody else. And I just poor grape juice, just being like, what do we do? But then they're like, yeah, we're in the back vanguard so we can help try to evacuate everybody as quickly as possible, right? But yeah, Minetto, poor Minetta. Minetta's just like, I don't know what to do. And then, yeah, Invisible Girl's like, it's okay. And then, yeah, Slide and Go, who's with the Liberation Front, noticing that all the heroes are gone from the city because they've all, they're getting ready to invade. And then the one hero whose name is Death Arms. I'm just like, I love it. I love just Death Arms. It's great. And he's like, what you doing? Like, they know he's from the Liberation Front and they're getting him out of the way before he can go warn everybody. So making a move. And then we briefly cut, like, for this episode to focus, like, rarely on Deku, Bakugo, and Shoto, I think, and still be a really good episode is a testament, I think, to starting out this series. But yeah, Bakugo, I've missed them so much. I've missed Bakugo and his manic chihuahua energy. I will make note, ever since I've watched season 5, after watching season 5 of My Hero Academia, I started watching Attack on Titan. So now I know that Yuki Kaji plays the voice of Shoto, and now I'm just like sitting there listening, but it just sounds like Eren Yeager with zero energy. It feels like Eren Yeager before he's had a morning coffee is what Shoto sounds like. Which is really exciting, right? Which is fun. It's a fun time. But Bakugo just being like, I want to be on the front lines, and just like, meh, manic chihuahua energy. And Shoto is just like being the most blunt and honest. He's like, shut up, damn it! And then I like that Ida's like, calm down. I think Ida was only placed there to separate Bakugo and Shoto if need be. Shipping is so fun in this series. I get the people that ship Bakugo and Shoto. I really do. I don't personally ship them that much, but I get it. And I get that Ida's like trying to like, put the cock block energy there. And then meanwhile, Deku's like, screw you guys. I'm over here with Froggy and Ochako. Yeah. And him just being like, trying to like, just be the little dork that he is. And he's such a bean. And he's like, we just got to do the mission that we've been given. And it's like, everybody's like, okay. Like I said in the reaction, I love Burning's design as well. It's great. But yeah, they go into the hospital. We get this like Full Metal Alchemist style cards. I'm all here for it. I hope we have them the rest of the season. We had Deku and Endeavor in here. But we cut back briefly to talk about Fuyumi and Natsu. And them saying that Endeavor tried to call. He called because he was going to be gone for a while on work. And the thing of it is that Endeavor, because in the last season he separated himself from his family so that they could live their lives, and he kept in the main house and gave them their own place. But Fuyumi saying that he called her, and the sad thing about it is that he was calling because Endeavor has the suspicion that, what if this mission goes wrong and he never sees them again? So he was trying to do something good. He was trying to call his kids and be like, hey, I'm just talking to you. Just let you know I'm gone for a while from work, with the guise of him doing this undercover mission that he may never see them again. And then Natsu's like, what does he think this is? And Natsu still's bitter. Natsu's like, I don't, it's Natsu. What I like about what Horikoshi does with them is that he does not make the situation instantly okay. Like, there's been so much, like, abuse and stuff between the Endeavor family, right? There's been so much between them all that it's not something that's going to heal overnight. Like, even though he gave him the house, Natsu is still not healed. He's still in the process. He's not forgiven Endeavor. He's still, like, not happy with them, but he's just accepted the fact that Endeavor is separated. And Fuyumi is probably the most forgiving out of all of them. And I think Endeavor has the best relationship with Fuyumi. So it makes sense why he called her. But I like that Horikoshi just doesn't solve the problem. He acknowledges that, yeah, this isn't something that's going to heal overnight. It's something that's going to take a long time. So it's like, yeah, about that. But I do like that they touch base on them. And then, yeah, we go to the hospital and Endeavor's like, pawn of the devil. It's so great. Endeavor's so serious. But I forgot the Doctor does have a quirk that keeps him, from aging. And it makes sense. He's been with All for One this entire time. And All for One's pretty much ageless at this point because he's just used quirks to heal his body and regenerate it over and over again. But the Doctor's quirk makes sense of helping with that. But I forgot about the seriousness of Present Mike and Aizawa and how they just get up in his face and they're like, you hurt our friend and we're not happy. We're going to remind the audience about season 5 and that whole thing with Kurashiro and all that. And the thing about it is, If you've not read Vigilantes, which is the side story of My Hero Academia, it finished. The series is over. I think there's like 11 volumes of Vigilantes. Go read it. It's really cute. But there's a whole side story with Aizawa and his past and present Mike's past from high school. It's amazing and I love it. So if you've not read Vigilantes, you need to go read it. It's really good. It's not too long. You can get through it pretty quick, but it's super cute. It's about vigilante hero. It's not even heroes. It's about vigilantes in the hero society. And it's got Aizawa's backstory in it. It's so good. But just seeing how Present Mike gets so emotional. Like him just like screaming in his face, like, why did you do this? Why did you make our friend a corpse and tinker with his body? Like, how disrespectful can you be? You just took our friend's quirk. And once he was dead, like, what the hell? And I love that Present Mike gets so mad about Oboro and being used. And then with Aizawa, he's like, we're taking it all back. He's like, you took our friend from us. You've taken so much from society. We're going to take it back. And he's just like so serious. Like Aizawa's like this calm fury. And Present Mike is like energetic, like just seeping out all this energy. Also, Present Mike and Aizawa, totally a ship. I'm here for it. I'm here for the OP where they're back to back. I'm like, yes, my shipper heart is content. I also love when they're evacuating the hospital. This was a moment in the manga too that was really cute. But you have like the three cats and you have the main guy like carrying the one guy and he's like, oh, I remember in the manga everybody was freaking out. Like, look at this guy fanboying over the fact that he's being carried out by one of the kitty cats. It's like, he's just like, oh, my hero. Secret crack ship. I'm here for it. But Mirko, our bunny girl, she is like, I freaking love Mirko. She's such a badass. And she's just like kicking. They actually get a little bloody. I'm like, okay, My Hero Academia, get a little bloody because this season's gonna get bloody. Do it. And her just like knocking the Nomu, like kicking their faces off. Mirko's a freaking badass and I love her. But I love Endeavor being like, how do we know all this information? And the fact of it was because of Hawks. Now, we'll talk about it in the spoiler corner too, but I'm kind of torn. I don't ship Endeavor and Hawks. It's kind of weird. Hawks was like a little kid when Endeavor was a full-blown adult. So I'm like, I can't do it. But I know people that do ship Endeavor and Hawks and I'm like, but I'm not a big age difference shipper. The age difference stuff kind of weirds me out a little bit. Like if they were old enough to drive when you were born, that's too much of an age gap for me. Too much for me. And it's definitely the case with Hawks and Endeavor, so I can't do it. I'm just like, no. But I know people that do ship Endeavor and Hawks. I can see it. I don't judge anybody that ships them. You ship away. You set sail whatever ship you want. But it's just not me personally. Just not for me. But I get it. And this episode, I definitely get the ship elements coming out. So again, what's so dangerous about Twice's Quirk Double is that it's very hard to know until it's revealed. So I forgot that this was a double of the Doctor. When he got hit by the drill, I was like, oh wait, isn't he dead? And then you're like, oh, it's a double, that's right. So again, I'm glad that I've not read in over a year, so a lot of this will be fresh. And then yeah, he was a duplicate. And the real Doctor is deep within the lab with Shigaraki and his skin suit. The Shigaraki stands. Y'all are being fed well. That's all I'm gonna say. And then he decided he'd be like, well, I would never leave this hospital. Like he's holed up in this hospital his entire existence practically, making stuff for All for One, and decides that he's gonna take Johnny and go. And he's like, the bloodshed and happy days I shared with All for One. I was like, it's so twisted. Like Horikoshi, he sneaks in those lines that you're like, this is really messed up. Like just the fact that he's like happy days, killing and doing things for All for One. Oh my God. But yeah, him grabbing Johnny, but I'm sorry, Mirko, her bunny powers, her sneaking in, and just the door hitting Johnny. I forgot about it. Yeah, in the manga, he's just like a bloody mess. And he's like, Johnny, no! And all the quirks just evaporate. I love, though, how it's animated. I've waited for these chapters to start getting animated, which has me so excited. But her looking over and being like, are you the real one? I'm like, ah! So it's so crazy. The heroes have already made it up to the real Doctor. I remember reading the manga thinking that it was going to take them forever. I was like, oh, the Doctor's holed up somewhere. He's never going to be found. It's going to be like this whole arc's going to be trying to track him down. No, in the first episode, we've found him, the quirks. Shigaraki, everything's right here. And now that Johnny's gone, they can't teleport. So it's going to happen. I'm great. It's great. I'm so excited. Yeah. So I do want to talk spoilers. I do want to talk spoilers for this episode. I want to talk spoilers for a little bit, just briefly. So if you're sticking around for the spoiler corner, yay. But if not, what a really solid episode to start the series off. A very solid episode. Season 5, I think a lot of people were complaining because we kind of had to build up to the league, the My Villain Academia. We had to build up to it. We spent a lot of time building up to it. And I think a lot of people with the pacing were like, ugh. But this episode already, the pacing's like, nope, we're going to get down to business. Let's do this right now. Okay. So I'm really excited. That has me very, very, very excited to see what we're going to do this series. And I'm assuming 24 episodes will have 2 cores. So I figure that this OP is going to be with the first 12 episodes. All right. Maybe. But yeah, so I'm going to talk spoilers, but if you are not sticking around for those, then I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll see you all next week with episode 2 of My Hero Academia. But for those of you sticking around for spoilers, we're here. I love the events of this season, and this episode just made me go, oh shit. I was like, oh God, it's coming. Oh Lordy, coming. That's it. Let's talk about this OP. Can we talk about this OP? This OP, when it was playing, I was like, oh, this just seems, I'm going to go back and play it again. Because at first I was like, this is a really upbeat, happy OP. The events of this season are not upbeat and happy. They're quite traumatizing. So I was like, ooh, like, of course. And then here's the thing. Deku in the green, but you have Shigaraki and Bakugo in the red and the orange. Okay. But yeah, and then Shoto in the blue. But there's aspects of this OP I wanted to talk about with y'all. I do love the comic style. And then, of course, it downplays everything. Like Shigaraki grabbing in all the hands. Like, it downplays it. It's like, oh, this is going to be a fun little season. I'm like, oh, this is going to be freaking traumatizing. It's going to be really sad. But Present Mike and Aizawa back to back with Kurogiri, like, behind the glass. Mirko with the dash looking like a manic pixie dream girl. Just like, not a manic pixie dream girl, but like a badass. Oh, Gran Torino. Gran Torino. I'm not ready for Gran Torino. I'm not ready for Gran Torino at all. Nope, not ready for that part. They give little hints throughout this episode in the OP and ED with the yellow cape and the bits of the cape that Deku have. Oh, I'm not ready for it. Mm-mm. And then Endeavor, and then Dobby in the rain. Dobby in the rain. That's gonna be between Hawks and Twice and their story and Dobby's reveal. Those are gonna be the hardest to hold back on in spoilers and not spoil it for the anime onlys. And it's gonna be the hardest to wait for because those are 2 of my honest favorite moments. I feel like the whole thing with Hawks and Twice, that whole deal was so controversial in the manga and people had so many mixed thoughts about it. I'm ready for that. And then Dobby's dance, I will not tell you, if they do Dobby's dance justice, I will be one happy fangirl because that's one of my favorite parts of this arc. Is because here's the thing, it's hard to talk about it in this series because Horikoshi, it's like you know it's coming. We've known it's been coming for years. We've known that Dobby's been Endeavor's son for years. You just know it. And Horikoshi knows that we know. But he just doesn't confirm it until the right moment and let the characters know till the right moment. And it's like, oh my God, it's so well done. And then cutting from Dobby to Hawks with the feathers and him coming through the doorway to get to Twice. Oh, that moment of the OP, I'm like, oh shit. The anime onlys have no idea. They have no idea. It was so hard to keep my mouth shut. I was like, no, because it's going to come and I'm going to be so sad because I love Twice. And I love that. And that's one of the biggest things that Hawks, him killing Twice is like, because he is. Twice is literally the heart of the League of Villains. And him dying it's what makes everything go downhill. Like just into the darkness we go. Twice was the one ray of light for the villains. And then without him, into the deep dark. Also, when I was talking about Hawks and Endeavor as a ship, I don't ship Hawks and Endeavor because for me it's quite awkward to ship a couple when you ship his son with him as well. Because I ship Dobby and Hawks so much. I'm ready for the Dobby Hawks. I'm ready for my hot wings moments. I've got my barbecue sauce. I'm gonna wear a bib when we get to that point and just eat hot wings and be like, I'm ready. Let me ship. Like, I'm so excited for it. I can't wait. I freaking love Dobby and Hawks as a ship. And then, oh, that shot of Hawks' face looking at Twice, like knowing what he has to do. Obviously, like one of the more darker moments for Horikoshi being like, we're going to have this hero kill off this villain, but it's a villain that everybody in the audience kind of secretly roots for. We're going to get rid of him. I'm just not ready for it. And then it cuts to Twice! Like, this OP is so spoilery if you know what's coming. If you know what's coming, and Twice sitting there, the sad man's parade, is sitting there crying. You know what's coming, and it's so hard when you know from the spoilers. And then we cut to Shigaraki in that damn cape. That damn cape! Like a supervillain. Like, he looks like Doctor Strange, right? Oh my god, the capes in this series. Edna Mode would not be approving. She would not approve of Shigaraki in the cape. And then Deku and Shoto and Bakugo looking so sad. And then deciding to fight. Yep. Mirko and Aizawa and all of them and Endeavor. Hawks with the feathers. Yep. And the funny thing is, I was like, I remember around the time this episode came out, this chapter came out in the manga, people were really questioning if Kaminari was the traitor. Whether Kaminari was the traitor. Because there is a moment, like one of the villains in the Liberation Front has kind of like the spiky, like lightning bolt hairdo. And there was a shot of Kaminari doing like this, like the Liberation Front pose. I think that was totally coincidental. I also think that Horikoshi put that in there as a red herring to get the fandom being like, is Kaminari the traitor? Spoilers, he's not. He was not the traitor, which is great. I'm glad that wasn't the case because I like Kaminari. But yeah. Oh, there's so much. And Dobby's sweeping his arm out. I'm like, you're teasing us. You're teasing us. Teasing us so hard with Dobby's dance. I'm so fucking ready. Pardon my language. I've waited a year. I've waited years for this. But yeah, the whole thing with Twice and Hawks, it's so hard. It's so hard to watch. Because especially when you know, it's exactly right. Yeah, Twice is a villain, but he has a good heart underneath it all. And for Hawks to be the one to kill him, it's gonna be, I remember everybody was so torn up about it, being like, is Hawks a good person? Is he not? Here's our shades of gray. Oh, I'm so ready for the conversations to start with it. I'm so ready for the conversations to start with it. I am. I so am. Yeah, it's gonna be a good time. But yeah, so, shit. Just everything happening is setting everything up. Midnight being set up and all this as the mentor. Like, when you go back and rewatch it after you've read the chapters, you're like, well, Horikoshi, you knew exactly what you were doing. It's like, Horikoshi knew. Just knew. Yep. It's crazy, right? It's so crazy to see all this start to come together. And then I forgot about the President Mike stuff with Kurogiri, forgot about all of that. And then the doctor, about him being the double. And then, yeah, the fact that we're already at Mirko coming in and smashing Johnny. Yeah, the fact that we've already come in with that. Oh my God. Yep. I forget how fast paced some of these chapters were at the start. But then you realize we've got to fight all these Nomus. It ended up being a lot of chapters before we got Shigaraki getting out of the test tube. So I'm going to be curious with the pacing, how much we get through in this, because there is actually quite a lot to get through and quite a lot with this Liberation Front battle. And so I'm excited. The animation with Mirko was great, like her jetting through the tunnel. I like that a lot. So I'm pretty hyped to see what all we get with that battle. But Mirko, Horikoshi and his fetish with cutting people's arms and legs off. I was like, oh God, I'm not ready for Horikoshi. I remember the comments in the manga was like, lucky rabbit's foot. I'm like, no! So also, if you've seen the double spread that came out with the latest chapter of the manga, Horikoshi did a spread of them all sitting together around a couch and stuff and said like, oh, season 6 of the manga's coming out. And on the couch, there's Dobby and Hawks, and sandwiched between them is Twice. You're so cruel, Horikoshi. You're so cruel. How dare you? I just feel, Horikoshi knows he's such a masochist and he loves to torture us in the most subtle ways possible, right? But yeah, so looking at this ED, we'll round out with this ED and talking about it. The idea of, yeah, and just Deku And so seeing Shigaraki like on the streets with the white hair and no one helping him, but then we backtrack to Deku and Shigaraki in the shadows and Deku in the light. When that moment happens, oh my god, when that moment happens in this series, it's going to be great. There's so much good stuff in season 6 that is to come. I'm so excited because Horikoshi is really good at parallels and characters, and just having Deku and Shigaraki there, and Shigaraki being a little bit taller than Deku. Our cinnamon buns, yeah, and it's the opposite arms. It's Shigaraki's right arm that's all tore up, and it's Deku's left arm that was tore up. Come on. And then seeing all the heroes. Oh, Crust is in there. Damn it. No, Crust getting torn up, and then Mirko and Hawks and Endeavor, and then Gran Torino. And then, seeing Fat Gum with his hand on top of Sun Eater's head. Oh my god. Like, the ED is gorgeous. Like, the animation of the ED is beautiful. And then, I'm sorry, but Eraser with Present Mike, and then Midnight at the front. I'm not ready for that either. I'm not ready for that moment of losing her. And seeing the kids, because like Momo was so torn up about it. And then Ochako she gets like, when she turns back and sees the pink slip, like that's gonna be her and Toga, her going back to see Toga. Oh, all setting that up. That's gonna be great. And then and cutting to Toga twice. Oh, this ED and OP, if you know what's coming, it's such a spoiler fest. And the mosaic, the stained glass that have like the cracks in it and the breaks. I freaking love that image. That image of Toga and Twice. That's absolutely gorgeous. So beautiful. Oh, Horikoshi. And then the green light with, and I'm sorry, but if you don't know that Dabi is Endeavor's son at this point, and he puts his hand on Endeavor and like makes the flames go out from it, if you don't know that he's his son, how could you not? It's just a matter of time. I'm so freaking excited. Yeah, I'm so excited. And then Shigaraki looking out amongst all the destruction with the red cape and everything. And then his whole thing with Gran Torino and about Nana Shimura. And I'm so close to being able to talk about my ship. I'm so close to being able to talk about my Gran Torino and Nana ship. I'm so there because I ship them so hard. Do I believe that Gran Torino is actually Shigaraki's grandpa? Yes, I do. But we're not there yet. I can't talk about it yet. But we're so close. And then it cutting from him. Like, we start out the ED with him and Deku. And then we see, like, him as the kid and seeing Shigaraki smile. And then Deku. Cutting back to him. And then there's the yellow cape flapping in the breeze. Oh, my God. Just, come on. Come on! It's great. I can't. I'm excited. I'm so excited to see what's going to happen and to see where this series goes. So yeah. But yeah, it's going to be a fun season. I'm really excited about it. And to see where all this goes. But yeah, I'm really excited to hear your guys' comments down below on what you all think. But I'm pretty excited for My Hero Academia. There's a lot to look forward to. Like I said, some of my favorite moments of this season, so it's going to be a good time. But I'm curious to hear your comments down below. Please spoiler tag so that anime onlys are not spoiler tagged or not. But y'all can talk about me spoilers all I want. I can't be spoiled with this series. I know what happens. So we can talk spoilers in the comments down below. Just make sure to tag it for anime only so they don't accidentally see something they're not supposed to. But to be respectful to them, of course. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yes, I'll be back next week with episode 2 of My Hero Academia.